Hey everyone, welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. Let's just jump right into today's explainer. Now, if you joined us for our last session on what Cloudbreak is and why it actually matters, you already know that Solana state storage has to pull off a pretty wild balancing act. It needs blinding speed, but it also demands rigorous historical accuracy. So how does it actually pull that off? Well, today, we're mapping the concrete software blueprint of Solana state storage. We're moving way past the high-level theory and looking straight at the actual machinery under the hood. Don't worry, you won't need a hard hat for this, but by the time we're done here, you're going to have a crystal clear mental picture of exactly how data flows through this entire system. Here's our game plan for today. We're going to kick things off with the Cloudbreak blueprint, meet the core components, and then walk step by step through the write and read paths. Finally, we'll wrap up by covering some crucial operational trade-offs and key takeaways. Let's get to it. All right, Section 1, the Cloudbreak blueprint. So in our last explainer, we talked about how nodes need lightning-fast access to accounts to process transactions, right? But at the same time, they've got to keep old data around for audits. The catch is, if you tried to keep absolutely everything in RAM, your node's memory would literally explode almost instantly. There's just no way. To solve this, Cloudbreak is built a lot like a massive, highly specialized library. Your hot state, that's the reading room right up front. Everything in there is kept in memory, so it's super fast, but space is incredibly limited and frankly, very expensive. Cold state, on the other hand, well, that's your climate-controlled vault deep down in the basement. It holds all your older historical data. Sure, it takes a little bit longer to go fetch a book from the vault, but you have vastly more space to store the whole collection. Moving right along to Section 2, meet the core components. Now that we've got a mental picture of our reading room and our vault, let's meet the hardworking staff that actually runs this place. First up, we have the storage APIs. Think of this as the front desk of the library, where the validator runtime comes up to make its requests. Next is the storage engine front end. This is basically your highly stressed out head librarian. Their job is mediating all the concurrent reads and writes so everyone gets exactly what they need without, crashing into each other. Then we have the account index service, which acts as the library's high-speed card catalog. It maps specific accounts to their exact physical shelves. Fourth on the list is the column family data layout. That's the highly optimized physical shelving system sitting on the hard disks. And finally, the snapshot and ledger persister. This is your chief archivist, meticulously making durable backup copies of everything. Every single component here has a very specific job to make sure the library doesn't catch fire. Section 3, executing the right path. Let's see this in action. What actually happens when a massive new batch of books or transactions arrives at the loading dock? Well, first, the runtime applies the transactions and generates account updates. Second, the front desk, our storage API, batches these all up and hands them over to the head librarian. But pay close attention to step 3 here. Before absolutely anything else happens, the engine performs what's called write-ahead logging. It writes down exactly what it is about to do. Why? Because if the node randomly crashes and our metaphorical library gets hit by a meteor, we have a perfectly safe record to recover the data from. Only after that data is safely persisted on the physical shelves does step 4 happen. The account index, our card catalog, finally gets updated with the new locations. And lastly, in step 5, the chief archivist is notified to include these brand new writes in the next backup. So basically, crash recovery is 100% guaranteed before the card catalog even knows the book exists. Pretty brilliant, right? Okay. Section 4, executing the read path. So, transactions obviously need to read state to execute. Let's play this process in reverse. When the runtime needs an account, it goes straight to the card catalog in step 1 and asks, hey, where's this? In step 2, the index instantly fires back an address. Now, this address is going to be one of 2 things. It's either an in-memory pointer, meaning the account is hot, or it's a file offset, meaning the account is cold. In step 3, the head librarian takes over. If it's a hot memory pointer, boom, they serve it right up from the reading room shelf with lightning-fast microsecond-scale latency. But if it turns out to be a cold file offset, they have to orchestrate a staged retrieval from the vault, carefully fetching it from the disk without disturbing any of the other readers trying to use the library. Section 5, operational trade-offs. Now, understanding these components isn't just trivia. It matters immensely for node operators who have to keep validators running optimally in the real world. Let's look at snapshot semantics as an example. You have to decide on your archival cadence. Do you want incremental snapshots or full snapshots? Incremental snapshots only capture the deltas. That means they just record the tiny little changes made since the very last backup. This is great because it vastly reduces your write size and saves massive amounts of disk space. But there is a catch. If your node crashes, piecing together a million tiny little changes to rebuild the state takes a lot longer. Full snapshots, on the other hand, are super heavy on your storage space, but restoring them, absolute breeze. Ultimately, your choice dictates exactly how hard the archivist works and directly controls your node's total recovery time. Check this out. Here is another really fascinating trade-off: your index memory budget. If you decide to give your account index, your card catalog, a massive chunk of memory, you're going to see something like 80% faster lookup percentiles. Your reads become incredibly fast because almost every lookup pointer you need is instantly available right there in RAM. But, of course, that choice comes at a cost. You might see, say, a 20% increase in front-end memory pressure. You are literally starving the head librarian of the memory they need for write buffers. So you can speed up the card catalog, sure, but you might inadvertently slow down the staff trying to stock the shelves. It is all deeply connected.
All right, Section 6, Key Takeaways. We covered a lot of ground today, but if you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer, please remember these 3 structural principles. Number 1, separation of concerns. Because the front desk, the librarians, and the vault are completely separate components, we can optimize them totally independently. Number 2, index freshness. Your entire system is really only as fast as its card catalog. And number 3, compaction schedules. How often you send that archivist down to the vault directly dictates whether your system gets totally bogged down with disk contention.
To wrap things up, I want to leave you with a bit of a challenge. Take a hard look at your own setups. Based on the blueprint we just walked through, where do you personally expect bottlenecks to pop up in a read-heavy workload versus a write-heavy workload? Which part of our library is going to feel the strain first? To continue exploring advanced Solana concepts like this, and to really dive deeper into optimizing these exact workloads, you've got to go visit forge.college. There is a massive wealth of resources there to take your understanding to the next level. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.